hope you had a great lunch. You can retake the stand. Remember, you're still under oath, okay? Have a seat. Okay, further cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Trooper, this was the first homicide case you were working as lead investigator. Is that correct?
That is incorrect.
You've been a lead in the Ben Renick homicide investigation was not the first homicide in which you were the lead investigator?
Well, you just changed your question.
Okay.
Is this the first homicide that I've worked? No. Is this the first homicide that I was lead investigator? Yes.
And so, as the lead investigator then, you said that you had reviewed all the case file?
Yes.
Okay. And I understand you can't memorize every word, but you did review Lynlee Renick's 10-5 interview with Corporal Faust, right?
Correct.
Did you read the, well, let me just ask you to review this page. Paragraph 14.
Excuse me, Judge, can we approach for a second? Yeah. Just a second here. Ready, Doc? Okay, now, rephrase your question.
Thank you. Did you ever ask Lynlee Renick prior, or did you ever ask Lynlee Renick after you reviewed this file whether she was going to the spa or whether she was going to the reptile facility with Michael Humphrey to get a divorce?
I would have loved to have talked to Lynlee Renick, but Lynlee Renick lawyered up and I wasn't allowed to talk to her.
Can we approach her?
Okay, I'll let you get set up. I need to tell you all something after she gets... Okay, disregard the last answer of this witness. Ask your question, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Were you aware, Trooper, that half of the shells in the reptile facility were not picked up?
Yes.
And you were aware that half of the other shells were picked up?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever ask yourself why somebody who wanted to pick up the shells would only pick up half of them?
That's already been discussed, and we know why.
So you did. The answer to my question is yes?
If I wondered?
Yes.
What is the... Yes.
You did. Okay. Did you ever attempt to investigate whether Brian Higginbotham was involved in the case?
No.
Now, are you familiar with a person named Brandon Blackwell?
I am.
Who is, or can you tell the jury who Brandon Blackwell is?
Brandon Blackwell is one of the several people Lynlee was having an affair with. After Ben was killed, Brandon and Lynlee had a child together. And
If you could just describe like the relationship briefly.
Is that enough?
Yes.
Okay.
So at some point, you went to speak with Brandon Blackwell around September of 2019, is that correct?
Correct.
And did you state in a deposition that the reason you went to speak with Brandon Blackwell was because you were reviewing CaseNet and it showed that he was paying child support to Lynlee?
I believe so, yes.
Why was child support relevant in your decision to go speak to Brandon Blackwell?
So when we work investigations, oftentimes you'll find that people lie to you initially, especially when they're in a romantic relationship. So when a romantic relationship breaks, oftentimes people who had lied to you, if you're in a romantic relationship, that person will confide in you. So it was thought that perhaps Brandon Blackwell knew more because Brandon Blackwell was in a long-term relationship, had a child with Lynlee, so maybe she confided in him, and then they had broken up, is what we believed. If he's paying child support, that would be a common thought.
You weren't going to tell Brandon Blackwell that if you help us convict Lynlee Renick of murder, you're not going to have to pay child support anymore because she's going to be in prison?
I don't even have that authority.
You have the authority to arrest people, don't you?
You just talked about child support, somebody paying child support. I have no authority over child support.
Well, let's back up a second. If a person is in jail, they're not going to be taking care of their child, correct?
Hypothetically?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. So a person being in jail may make their partner's obligations for child support go down, right?
Judge, I'm going to object. Mr. Schaffer, with all due respect, is not an attorney, and the child support, I believe, remains. You don't stop paying child support because somebody else was
What's
in jail.
the objection?
It's without relevance and with lack of foundation at this point, Judge.
That objection is overruled.
So Lynlee Renick,
And I would add speculation too, Judge. But
I think it's a reasonable inference.
That objection is overruled.
So Brandon Blackwell owing Lynlee Renick child support was a factor in your decision to go talk to Brandon Blackwell in September of 2019.
I think you're making a leap.
This will go a lot easier if you just answer the question.
Well, if you would ask me a question or let me answer the question, then I will answer it.
Was your going to speak with Brandon Blackwell in September 2019, was his obligation to pay Lynlee Renick child support was that a factor in your decision to go speak with him about the investigation?
A factor, yes.
Did you tell Curtis and Brandon, now, did you speak with Brandon Blackwell's parents when you went to talk, well, did you ever, I'll withdraw the question and ask another one. Did you ever interview or speak with people named Curtis and Brandy Blackwell?
I did.
Did you ever tell Curtis and Brandy Blackwell that Lynlee Renick was a person of interest in your investigation?
Probably.
Now, in January of 2014, did Curtis Blackwell contact you about his son, Brandon Blackwell?
He did.
And where was Brandon Blackwell on January the 14th of 2020?
Boone County Jail.
Do you know why he was in the Boone County Jail?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury why he was in the Boone County Jail?
Violation of a protection order against Lynlee.
Okay. Now, you have taken an oath this afternoon to tell the whole truth, correct?
Correct.
Is that the whole truth?
What are you referring to?
Wasn't he charged with more than violation of an order of protection?
I don't know. I don't know what he was charged with.
Didn't you want to know that?
What do you mean?
Were you ever interested in knowing what Brandon Blackwell was in the Boone County Jail for?
He was in there for a violation of a protection order.
Okay. Was he, and that was the crime he was alleged to have been committed against Lynlee?
I believe it was multiple
Multiple what?
violations.
Okay. Was he charged with any other crimes against Lynlee?
I'm assuming so if you keep asking.
I would just like for you to answer the question,
Well,
please.
ask me the question and I will answer it.
Was Brandon Blackwell in the Boone County Jail for any charges in addition to violation of an order of protection?
I already said I do not know, but
Okay.
I assume so.
Would you please review those documents for me?
Okay.
What do those documents appear to be?
It's charging document.
For who?
Brandon Blackwell.
Okay. Does that appear to be an indictment against Brandon Blackwell?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything about that paperwork? Well, I'll withdraw the question, Your Honor. I would move what I've marked as defense D into evidence at this time.
Well, any objection?
Judge, I would object to the relevance.
What, let me see. Yes, Judge. Well, I want to reserve ruling on this at this time. You got further questions, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but that's your objection?
Well, Judge, I don't know if it's a certified copy or not. I haven't seen it other than it flashed it to me, and I don't need to see it, but assuming it is, again, the relevance, this is a witness who at the defense request has to be excluded and is not testifying.
Yeah.
Well, it's not statements. It's not his statement.
Well, but wait a minute, it may gain relevance depending on what other questions he's got. I'm going to reserve ruling on it at this time. Ask your question, counsel.
Okay. So you, now you had said that you documented all the significant steps in your investigation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you had a conversation with Brandon Blackwell's father while he was in jail on 114, correct?
Briefly, yeah, his father called me.
Mm-hmm. And as a result of that conversation, you went and saw Brandon Blackwell in the Boone County Jail.
Correct.
Was that a significant, was talking with Brandon Blackwell's father, would you consider that a significant event in the Renick investigation?
Talking to his father? No.
Okay. Now, do you know if, do you consider it relevant to know what Brandon, now, I'm going to suggest that you went to see Brandon Blackwell because you felt he had some information that might be useful to you, right?
Yes.
Do you think it's relevant for an investigator under those circumstances to know what a person like that who's in jail is actually in jail for?
Partially.
Okay. When you say it's partially relevant, do you mean that it is relevant or that it's not relevant?
I guess I don't know that it's really extremely relevant other than knowing that they're in jail. Like, I'm going to talk to him regardless, so I don't know that it's really relevant why he's in jail other than that he's in jail.
And that's why you don't know today all of the reasons he was in jail for?
Sure.
Now, when you met Brandon Blackwell in the Boone County Jail, he was in jail, correct?
Correct.
What was he wearing?
I have no idea. Probably orange. I don't know.
Okay. And you introduced yourself to him?
Yep.
Did you tell Brandon Blackwell that his father called you and reached out to you that he wanted to talk to you, Brandon?
Probably.
And did you tell Brandon that Brandon's father asked you or the prosecutor for leniency in his criminal charges against Len Lee if Brandon gave valuable information in the Renick homicide?
Yes.
And you told Brandon that before Brandon ever got into his story or statement to you, right?
Probably.
And then did you tell Brandon Blackwell that you talked to the prosecutor before you came to the Boone County Jail?
Probably.
Okay. Did you consider, and what would you have talked to the prosecutor about?
For something like this, we would talk to them and just say, hey, if we have a cooperating witness in a homicide, would you be interested in leniency with whatever charge they have?
Okay, and do you consider that a significant step in an investigation, that conversation with the prosecutor?
No, to my recollection, Brandon never even got the deal.
Okay. Well, do you know if his charges have been dismissed or he's pled to them?
I don't believe he has, or I don't believe they've been dismissed.
So they're still pending?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm. Depending on what happens in this case?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask them.
Okay. Did you write a report documenting the conversation with the prosecutor?
You just asked me that. I said no.
Did you write a report? I may not have asked you this, but did you write a report on your conversation with Brandon's father before you went and saw him?
You asked me that as well. Yes. When I went and saw him, yes, I wrote a report on that.
I'm talking about Brandon's father.
Yes. When I went and saw Brandon's father, I wrote a report on talking to Brandon's father.
You did?
Yes, you just...
Okay. Okay, fair enough. All right. Now, did you tell Brandon Blackwell that his information could not be speculation, that he couldn't get a deal unless he couldn't get a deal as long as his information was speculation?
I did. It had to be truthful. Yes.
Okay. Did you tell Brandon Blackwell that if Lynlee Renick goes to jail or prison, that there's no reason for him to have an ex parte? Or I'm sorry, did you tell Brandon Blackwell that if Lynlee Renick goes to jail or prison, that there's no reason for Lynlee Renick to have an ex parte against Brandon?
Probably. I mean, common sense would dictate that.
But you expressed that verbally to Brandon.
Yeah, probably.
Did you tell Brandon Blackwell that Brandon telling you half the story in the jail and the other half once he gets out of jail was not going to help him?
Yes, because that's what he wanted to do.
So, now, do you know how long the conversation was with Brandon Blackwell in the jail?
I have no idea.
Okay, if I were to say about 50 minutes, would that sound right?
Sure.
Now, are you aware of Brandon Blackwell having any injuries around that time?
I think he had like a TBI. I don't know how much prior to.
Okay. And can you tell the jury what a TBI is?
A traumatic brain injury.
Did you ask him any questions about the traumatic brain injury?
I don't believe I had to. I might have, but his parents had already told me about it, so.
And Brandon Blackwell, I'm sorry, I'll withdraw that question. After this conversation with Brandon Blackwell, did you ever, you're aware that in jail they record phone calls?
Yep.
And I think you downloaded or you were able to acquire Michael Humphrey's jail phone calls.
Probably.
Is that yes?
I believe so.
Okay. And you wrote a report on that, I think.
Probably so.
Okay. And you also downloaded Lynlee Renick's jail phone calls when she was in jail.
Correct.
Did you download Brandon Blackwell's jail phone calls?
I did not.
So you don't know what Brandon Blackwell ever said on his jail phone calls?
Correct.
So, if Brandon Blackwell were to say something on his jail phone calls, such as, "It's a really good thing Lynlee confessed to me," I'll withdraw
Judge,
it.
this question's been withdrawn.
I'll withdraw the question. Now, after that conversation, the very next thing you did after that conversation with Brandon Blackwell was you went and you detained Ashley Shaw.
I don't think that's right. I'm pretty sure I talked to Brandon twice.
When was the second time you talked to Brandon Blackwell?
I think I talked to Brandon, was the first time on the 14th maybe? I believe so.
If I were to tell you that you talked to Brandon Blackwell on the 16th, would that sound correct?
Yeah, but I think I talked to him prior to that too, did I not?
Well, did you write a report on it?
I would have.
Okay. But what's your answer? Did you talk to him? Well, let me ask this. Eventually you picked up Ashley Shaw and you detained her, right?
Correct.
And you detained her based on what Brandon Blackwell told you?
No.
Okay. Where was Ashley Shaw detained?
At her place of work in Columbia.
How much time had passed between talking to Brandon Blackwell and detaining Ashley Shaw?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, was it a day?
Hours, I would assume. I don't know.
You said hours?
I assume. I don't know. You have my report.
Okay, so your testimony is that hours after talking to Brandon Blackwell, and I'm asking for your memory, not what I have, but hours after interviewing Brandon Blackwell, you went and you detained Ashley Shaw. Is that your testimony?
Probably pretty close.
Okay. And you took Ashley Shaw somewhere, correct?
Correct.
And how did you get there?
In a car.
And you guys had a conversation in the car, right, with Ashley Shaw?
Correct.
And she described things that were going on in her life, correct?
Correct.
And one of the things on the way, and you didn't originally tell her why she was being detained, right?
In what? That's a vague question.
Sure, I'll make a more specific, I'll ask a more specific question. Did you tell Ashley Shaw, did Ashley Shaw, when you approached her vehicle, you approached her vehicle, right?
Correct.
She was inside of a car, I think you may have tapped on the window or got
Correct.
her attention?
Yep.
Did she, and what did she say once you got her attention?
I don't recall. I told her that we were there for the Ben Renick homicide, so she was aware of that.
Okay, what was the next thing she said?
I have no idea.
Okay, eventually she got in the car, right?
Correct.
And you read her Miranda rights.
Correct.
Why did you read her Miranda rights?
Because we asked her and we transported her, so at that point she's not free to go. So that's why we read her.
So I want to ask a little bit about the conversation you had with Ashley Shaw on the way to the station. Ashley Shaw told you that, and you hadn't talked to, when was the last time before this interview with Ashley Shaw you had talked to her? How long had it passed? How much time had passed since you last talked to Ashley Shaw?
I don't think I ever spoke to her.
Okay. And so did she tell you that she got a new job?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is an improper form of impeachment. I believe Ms. Shaw sat there and admitted that she said those things. So this is...
What did he just say a minute ago? Did he interview Ashley?
No.
This witness?
Are you asking me?
I thought he said he didn't ever talk to her.
No,
No,
prior
he
to.
didn't. He didn't interview her before this current interview that I'm questioning.
Oh,
about.
okay, didn't talk to her before he talked to her. Okay,
Right.
I get it.
Okay.
Objections overruled.
Okay. So Ashley Shaw told you that she got a job at Senior Benefit Services, right?
I believe so. That's where we picked her up.
And she also told you that she was trying to get her insurance license, right?
Probably.
And she told you that she was raising a child, right?
Probably.
And she told you that she got married recently, right?
I believe so.
And she told you that she was planning a honeymoon
Probably.
to Canada.
I have no idea where.
Now, did you ask her about how busy the spa was on the day of the homicide?
I don't recall.
I want you to read this document towards the end, towards the bottom, Trooper.
Okay.
Okay, so does that help you remember what she, how busy she told you the spa was?
Yeah, I think she said they were fairly busy.
Fairly busy?
I didn't. You asked me to read my part, so that's what I was reading. I didn't read her part.
Didn't that? Now, when you got to the station, where did you take Ashley Shaw?
To the interview room.
Can you describe for the jury what an interview room is?
It's a room with cameras and seats in it where you interview people.
How large was this interview room?
I have no idea. I mean, probably like 8 by 8, 10 by 10. I'm not sure.
So fairly small?
I would say it's pretty decent size for an interview room.
Okay. Was the door open or closed when you talked to Ashley Shaw?
Closed so that you don't get background noise.
How many officers were in that interview room with Ashley Shaw?
2.
And did Ashley Shaw have an attorney at that time?
She did not.
Did you ask Ashley Shaw if she had anything to do, or if Lynlee had anything to do with Ben Renick's death?
I believe so.
And she said, do you know what her answer to that was?
I think she said she'd like to think no.
Okay. And then after that, you made a statement to her that caused her to change that statement, correct?
And I guess in what sense do you mean caused her?
Well, let's take it, let's do it this way. Ashley Shaw told you she didn't know if Lynlee Renick killed Ben, right?
She said she'd like to think she didn't.
Okay. Then you made a statement, correct?
Probably so.
At the conclusion of that statement, Ashley Shaw gave another statement at about 6 o'clock that night, correct?
You're jumping ahead a lot of the interview that was done that night. So there was an initial story that she gave, which was all a lie, and the original story.
My question, Trooper, is just simply, did her story change from, I don't know if I would like to think Lynlee had nothing to do with Ben's death, to something different? That's all I'm asking, is if it changed.
It changed before, like that wasn't even, there's a whole statement in between there that you're skipping is what I'm saying. Her liking to believe not is not the statement that she gave prior to my statement.
Okay. I want to refer your attention, Trooper, to line 18, please. Line 18 and line 19, can you review those two lines to yourself?
18 and 19?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you have that one, please? Now, you guys were talking in words here, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's how we got it onto a transcript, correct?
Sure.
You say, do you think she had anything to do with his death? Is that true?
Correct.
And who is she that you were asking about?
Lynlee?
And did Shaw say, I would like to think not know?
Yes.
And what else did she say? It goes to line 24.
I don't know. I would like to think that I have better character judgment than that. I wouldn't work for someone or put myself or my child around somebody that would do something like that, but I don't know for sure. I wasn't there.
And that was spoken in the English language, correct?
Obviously.
Now, there's a page number at the bottom of this transcript. Can you tell me what that page number is?
18?
Okay. And 19 comes after 18, right?
No kidding.
Okay. So what I want you to do is look at the page number on that page.
Okay.
What page number is that?
19.
Okay. And what does Ashley Shaw say at the very top of that transcript?
If that makes sense, so I would like to say no, but I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. And then what do you say?
Okay.
Okay. And then, can we have that back, please? Okay. And you say okay on line 3, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then what does Ashley Shaw say on lines 4 and 5?
So that sounds really rude and bad. I don't know.
Okay. And then what do you say from lines 6 to 25? Would you read that to the jury, please?
Line 6. What lines are you on?
6 to the bottom of the page.
Okay. Well, I'll just cut to the chase. Shaw says, yeah. I said, the reason we're here and the reason that you're here is you have been implicated in being part of Ben's death, and I want you to hear me out before you say anything. She says, okay. I said, we've talked to the prosecutor, okay? And the prosecutor is willing, if you are 100% honest, to give information in this homicide that helps us solve it. Basically, he's willing to work with you. Otherwise, you would be accessory to first-degree murder, and first-degree murder, accessory to, is the exact same charge as first-degree murder. So we're here because we have information that you helped plan and actually took part in an attempt on Ben's life before Ben was actually killed. So I just want to put that out there and go back and let you be 100% honest on what happened, because we know a lot of what happened. Their arrest's going to be made, and then that ends the page.
Okay, what does it say on the following page, officer?
Today, people are going to jail for the first-degree murder. We've got the warrants typed up and ready to be sent out, so it's basically now is the time. You're either on Team Lynlee or you're on Team Missouri, and Team Lynlee is going to jail. They're going to prison for first-degree murder, so it's your opportunity. We're not here by surprise. You're here. We've got other people talking to other investigators, talking to other people, so that's where we're at right now. No more bullshit. The rubber meets the road. You have one opportunity, and it's right here, right now. As soon as we leave this room, if you don't tell us exactly what happened, you're not leaving. And she said, I need an attorney. You want to keep going?
No. Is this what you said to Ashley Shaw, Trooper?
Yep.
And what you meant was this, though, right?
No.
Are you familiar with a statute called witness tampering?
Yes.
What are the elements of witness tampering?
I don't know, but I'm sure you've got it.
Can I have one minute, Your Honor? No? Okay, I'm good. So you then, Ashley Shaw, after that, she said she needed an attorney. She was given an attorney, right?
Correct.
And she, at that point, accepted a proffer agreement, correct?
At what point?
Well, did she accept a proffer agreement at all that day?
That evening, yes.
Okay. After she signed that proffer agreement, did you, after she signed the proffer agreement, interview her?
I'm not sure if she signed it before or after. It was between her and the prosecuting attorney. If you say it's before, I'll take your word for it.
Okay. And I think in that interview you said that the proffer agreement no longer applies if you don't tell the truth, right?
Well, that's actually written on the proffer agreement.
Okay. But do you say that verbally in the interview?
Probably so, yeah.
Okay. So that would seem to suggest that she accepted the proffer agreement before the interview that you had with her that evening.
Sure.
Okay. Now, I want to show you a report that you wrote. You wrote a report about that conversation, that Team Missouri conversation. Did you not?
Probably so, yeah.
Okay. Is that the report that you wrote on that conversation?
Sure.
And did you document what you said to Ashley Shaw on that report?
It's a synopsis of what was said.
Okay. And you refer to that statement that you told her in that report. Do you not?
Point it out to me. What paragraph?
I'm going to refer your attention to paragraph 7. I've underlined it. How did you document your statement to Ashley Shaw?
It says, I told Shaw the people involved in Benjamin's murder would be going to jail by the end of the day, and this is her opportunity to tell the truth in regards to what happened to Benjamin.
Is that it?
That I wrote for mine, yes.
Do you think that that is a fair depiction of this statement?
I would say yes.
Okay. Would you tell that to the jury, please?
That's a fair depiction of that statement.
Now, you said a couple of times that you talked to the prosecutor about this case.
Which prosecutor, which part of the case?
Well, after
I can't hear you when you turn away, sir.
did you ever write a report at all about your conversation with any prosecutor about this case?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Are you supposed to write a report to a prosecuting, whenever you talk to a prosecuting attorney?
Not typically.
Okay. I'm going to hand you a document. Would you please review that document?
Okay.
Have you reviewed it?
Yep.
Can I see it, please? Does this document not say officers report to prosecuting attorney?
It does.
And it's completely blank, isn't it?
Well, okay, so
I'm asking you, is there any writing on this document?
I will answer your question if you allow me to explain what that document actually is.
Well, let him try to do that if he wants to on redirect. Just answer the question. Is there any writing on there?
Yes.
Okay, next question.
I have just a couple more questions. You showed a slide on direct examination, I think. Is that true, Trooper?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, do you remember back when Mr. Zollner asked you some questions when he questioned you?
Yes.
Okay, so you remember that?
I don't know what you're asking, is what I'm saying.
My question is, do you remember testifying on direct examination when Mr. Zollner asked you questions?
Yes.
And I think you testified about messages that were sent between Len Lee and Ben.
Correct.
Do those appear to be Facebook messages between Len Lee and Ben?
Yes.
Okay. There's a highlighted portion there. Would you read that to the jury, please?
I'm sorry those nights happened. They shouldn't have, never will again. I wasn't mad at you for not having sex with me, but it doesn't matter because I made you feel that way. I'm sorry.
Would you read it a little bit slower so I can understand it, please?
I'm sorry those nights happened. They shouldn't have, never will again. I wasn't mad at you for not having sex with me, but it doesn't matter because I made you feel that way. I'm sorry.
Do you know what that's... And who appears to have written that?
No, it's, let me see. Ben would be my assumption. Yep.
Okay, do you know what he's referring to? What he's sorry for?
Yep.
What is he sorry for?
Her accusing him of raping her.
Doesn't that appear like he's apologizing for doing that?
It appears that he apologizes for making her feel that way.
Okay. I'm going to hand you another set of documents, Trooper. Do those appear to be Facebook messages as well?
They are.
There's a highlighted portion on there. Who sent that message?
Lynlee.
And what does she say in that message, Trooper?
Should we call it quits with the spa? I'm not angry.
I can't. Could you please speak slower? I cannot understand a word you're saying.
Should we call it quits with the spa? I'm not angry or being sarcastic. I'm legitimately asking. I understand very much the reality of this and honestly want to know what we need to do.
So Lynlee wanted to close, was willing to close the spa, right?
They're discussing it, yes.
Is that relevant to your investigation at all, Trooper?
Partially.
Did you ever seen that before?
Yes.
Did you include that in the litany of messages we saw this morning?
There was a bunch of messages not included.
Was it included or not?
No.
No?
No.
Why not?
I don't know why.
Is the answer, Trooper, because you don't care about both sides? You just care about the evidence that helps you convict somebody and get an arrest in a case? Is that the answer?
The answer is you have it because I have it. I'm not the one who puts on the prosecution.
I have no further questions.
Well, you're going to reoffer D,
Yes.
and I'm going to overrule the objection. D's admitted. Now, did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
Absolutely, Your Honor. Tell the jury what that document is.
It's basically the charges or indictment of Brandon Blackwell, things that he is being charged with awaiting trial for.
Count one. What's count one?
A violation of an order of protection.
Count two.
Violation of an order of protection.
I'm sorry, what date was the first count of violation of an order of protection?
October 4th, 2019.
Okay, what's count two?
October 23rd, 2019.
What's count three?
Violation of an order of protection, October 24th.
What are we on? What's count four?
Stalking.
What kind of stalking?
Class C felony stalking.
What degree of stalking?
I just said it. Class E felony of stalking. Oh, first degree.
Okay, and read what he's particularly accused of doing in that count.
Sending text messages stating he was out back. Text message to come outside, or he was about to come inside. I think that's it.
So he sent a message saying, I'm out back and I'm about to come inside.
Sure.
Okay, what's the next count? What are we up to? What number is that?
5.
Okay, what's count 5?
Violation of an order of protection.
Okay, what's the date for that?
November 27th.
And then what's the next count?
Violation of an order of protection, December 9th.
What count is that?
6.
Okay, and what are we up to now, 7?
Correct.
Okay, what's 7?
Another stalking.
Okay, what kind of stalking?
Exact same one as the first.
Would you just tell me what degree of stalking it is?
First degree.
Okay, and how much prison time how much time in prison can a person get for first degree stalking?
You'd have to ask a prosecutor, I don't know.
Okay. And these were the charges that Brandon Blackwell wanted leniency for, is that correct?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
I'm going to give you a hard time about a couple mistakes or things I think you got a little bit wrong.
Okay.
Remember a moment ago you said, Mr. Hessman said, well, why wasn't that slide, why wasn't that in that material?
Correct.
I showed, we used PowerPoint number 99, correct?
Correct.
And this, we didn't go through every slide, did we?
No.
And this isn't even every textbook. I mean, there's
Thousands.
thousands
Yeah.
more.
Correct.
And when we went through this, your job is to answer questions I might ask.
Correct.
Okay, and so slide 19, I'd like you to look at that and see if Mr. Hessman's anger at you about not asking something or providing something is a little misplaced. You should direct that to me because the evidence was right there in front of him.
Correct.
So that information is in there.
Correct.
One other thing I just wanted to ask you about, going way back when you first started answering questions, you remember this discussion about the $1 million life insurance policy?
Yes, sir.
You actually wrote a summary about, based on something else you had seen, about how you thought that life insurance was being handled.
Yes, sir.
You didn't actually investigate the life insurance policy.
No.
I got two stacks that, I don't know if you can see these. This is all the information financial from Renaissance Financial. You didn't obtain this.
Correct.
But you know it has to do with the life insurance policy.
Correct.
And you're not giving you a hard time, but you're not an estate attorney.
Correct.
You don't know how wills and trusts work, you're just kind of giving your basic thoughts.
Correct.
But if we wanted to know if that $1 million was part of the trust or was going to be paid directly to the defendant upon her husband's death, you're aware there's a lady sitting right out in the hallway that's going to come in here after the next witness.
Correct.
And she'll answer that question for Mr. Hessman.
Correct.
We don't have any other questions?
Recross.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, may this witness be finally excused?
He may be subject to recall, Your Honor.
You step down, you're subject to be recalled. Thank you so much. Call your next witness.
Jason Crafton. I need those three. I think that I got one.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you will now give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Have a seat right there.
Thank you. Sir, could you please state your name?
It's Jason Crafton,
And-
spelled C-R-A-F-T-O-N.
And do you need a moment? I know you brought a big file in with you. Is that your file from the crime lab?
Yes, it is.
Do you need a moment to get organized before I start asking you questions?
I'm done.
Okay,
Thank
sorry.
you.
You work at the crime lab?
Yes, I do.
How long have you worked at the Missouri State Highway Patrol crime lab?
For 21 years.
And prior to that, did you work at yet another crime lab?
Yes, I did.
And which crime lab was that?
That was the Southeast Missouri Regional Crime Laboratory in Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
And what are your current duties or titles at the Missouri State Highway Patrol crime lab?
I'm a criminalist supervisor in the Firearm Toolmark section of the Jefferson City Crime Laboratory.
You run the division that looks into firearms, correct?
Yes.
How many people do you have to supervise?
I supervise 2 people.
Over the years, how many firearms do you think you've examined as part of a criminal case?
I'd say roughly 2,000 plus firearms.
And have you had to come to court and testify before about those findings?
Yes, I have.
And have you testified on both behalf of the state and defendant?
Yes, I have.
Now, to do your job, to look at firearms, examine them, and render expert opinions about firearms, do you have some education, some training and experience that we haven't already mentioned?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
I have an associate's degree in criminal justice and from St. Charles County Community College, and I have a bachelor's of arts degree in chemistry, minor in criminal justice from Southeast Missouri University.
And over the years, have you had ongoing training involved in this field?
Yes, I have.
And can you kind of highlight the important parts of that over the years?
Sure. So when I first started at the Missouri State Highway Patrol Crime Lab Division, I undertook a 2-year kind of apprenticeship type of training under then my supervisor, Evan Todd Garrison. And so for 2 years, I had supervised training as on-the-job type of training. And one of those years was actually through the National Firearm Examiners Academy, which is sponsored by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. It's a year-long training academy. It's broken down into 4 phases. The first phase is receiving homework assignments such as studying, doing reading, and then writing papers. And then the second phase is going out to Maryland at the ATF National Laboratory and getting hands-on experience. And that was a 4-month phase. Then came back to the lab for phase 3, which involved them sending me mock cases to work and then also preparing a research project. The phase 4 was to go back out to Maryland for an additional 2 to 3 weeks, present my research project, and do moot court during that phase 4 time. And after that, I came back and I still had some additional training that Todd Garrison had given me pertaining to the Highway Patrol Crime Laboratory specific procedures. And then after that, I had to take competency test and proficiency test to show that I was competent and proficient in what I was able to do before even touching evidence to examine. Since that time, I do continue educational hours through various workshops, through various conferences that I attend, and armorers courses.
And you continue that education even today?
That is correct.
Now, as part of your day-to-day duties in the firearms section, what are some of the types of things you as an examiner can tell us about a firearm and whether a certain piece of ammunition component may have been fired from that gun?
So firearm examination is the examination of firearms to determine if they are functioning or not. And then the firearm comparison portion is examining expended ammunition components such as bullets, cartridge cases, shot shells, to determine if they have been fired from or in a particular firearm.
And if I were to give you a firearm and then also give you maybe a shell casing or a bullet fragment, let's start with the shell casings. What would you do, or how would you go about being able to determine whether that shell casing had actually been in that gun when it was fired?
So cartridge cases are an expended ammunition component. A cartridge is what you might think of, you might have heard the term bullet, which is actually the cartridge. Cartridge is comprised of the bullet, the cartridge case, gunpowder, and the primer. So the cartridge case, when it is fired, or when the cartridge is fired in a firearm, marks are left on the cartridge case by the firearm itself. The firing pin, there's multiple types of marks, like firing pin impressions, breech face marks, ejector marks, extractor marks, chamber marks, magazine lip marks. So lots of various type of marks could be imparted from the gun onto the cartridge case itself. So what I have to do is look at the cartridge case, examine the cartridge case to determine if there are those marks on those cartridge cases for examination comparison purposes.
And are there what you call class and individual characteristics when you do this examination?
Yes, there are.
Let's start with class characteristics. Could you describe what a potential class characteristic of a shell casing, an expended cartridge casing is?
Sure. So class characteristics are measurable or general features put on by the manufacturer. This would be, in the case of firearms, would be in the form of like a firing pin shape. You know, whether that firing pin is circular or elliptical or D-shaped, that would be a class characteristic. Another class characteristic is the firing pin aperture. That's the hole within the slide of like a pistol that the firing pin protrudes through. And that shape of that hole is a class characteristic, whether that is circular or rectangular, square. Breech face marks There's various types of breech face marks, parallel, crosshatch. Those are class characteristics as well.
And Mr. Crafton, I apologize. Did you also mention that one of the most basics that we're probably all familiar with is just the caliber of the is like a class characteristic?
That is correct. The caliber is a class characteristic.
And these class characteristics can sometimes narrow down the decision-making process of whether that cartridge casing was fired from that gun, but it's not definitive. It can't be definitive because of the, just because an aperture is round versus square narrows it down, but doesn't tell you definitively that gun fired that piece of ammunition.
That's correct. The class characteristics is not a identification characteristic. It is a general characteristic that, like Mr. Zellner said, filters items down. So you can actually eliminate based off of class characteristics, but you cannot identify off of class characteristics.
And I think at the beginning I mentioned individual characteristics. How are individual characteristics different than class characteristics? And do they help you not filter, but actually possibly either eliminate a weapon or say this is the weapon that fired that ammunition?
Sure. So individual characteristics are microscopic marks imparted onto an object by the random imperfection of a tool's working surface. And these are, the random imperfections are caused incidental to the manufacturing process caused by use, abuse, and wear of the item. And these are individualizing characteristics where these can be used for association from one object to another object.
And so that I make sure I understand this, when a gun is made, the firing pin is manufactured in the factory. That machine that makes it imparts some sort of random imperfection each time it makes a different firing pin.
That is correct.
And that's because as the machine wears down, the science is that the firing pin, each firing pin would be slightly different.
For different manufacturers, they do have different techniques, and some manufacturers, the firing pins will leave individual characteristics on those.
Yeah, well, whatever the individual characteristic is, though, and then the idea is that gun gets that individual characteristics, and when the cartridge is put in there and fired, ejected, some of those imperfections from the manufacturing process that are on the gun get imparted onto the ammunition component.
That is correct.
And so what you do is look at the gun and test fire it and get standards.
Correct.
These are ones you know came out of that gun because you did it yourself.
Correct.
And then you might compare those test standards through a microscope and other means
Yes.
to the unknown ones that law enforcement brings you to say, hey, did this one come out of that gun too?
That is correct.
Did you do that in this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 114. And ask if you can identify what's in that box.
Well, technically, the box has 114 in it, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Crafton, the box is marked 114. There's a black box inside it. And what I'm asking you is, can you identify what that black box is if you've seen that before?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And we haven't done this with the jury, but how is it, out of all these cases you've described working on, how is it that you can remember that?
So when evidence is submitted to the crime laboratory, that evidence has to be in a sealed container. So the container itself then gets imparted with a particular barcode on it. And on the barcode, a crime laboratory number is associated to it, and that container number is associated to that barcode as well. So the barcode is for tracking purposes within the laboratory. So what I do is when I receive this particular firearm, all firearms are brought to the special room that we have. It's called the tank room. That's where the bullet tank, water recovery tank is that we shoot into. So the tank room is where all firearms are filtered into, because we, as firearm examiners, have to check the firearm to make sure that it is unloaded if it has to be worked by any other section. So for safety checks is this yellow, neon yellow-green sticker, and that just shows that I checked this on this particular date. And then on the barcode itself, when I open this container to start working the evidence, I mark it with my initials and the date that I actually opened up this container.
And those numbers are what the numbers you use to track when you write your reports, so later on you can remember and bring the right file I was asking about earlier.
That's correct.
And in addition to that, I think when there's a protocol, officers write the same sort of information so they can track it and know what they're looking at.
Correct.
And there's a protocol, there's red tape and blue tape on here. Can you describe what the different tape is?
Sure. The red tape is the agency's tamper evident resistant tape that they place on the containers to submit the container. Like I said before, it has to be in a sealed container in order to be submitted to the crime laboratory. And then once I open up the container, I try not to open the container on the evidence tape that the agency put on there. And then when I'm done examining it, I put the evidence back inside the container and I seal it with blue evidence tape and put my initials and the date that I sealed it.
And that's how you keep track of this stuff and make sure it's not tampered with.
Correct.
Now, having said that, could I ask you to tell us what is inside that black plastic container?
Sure. So inside the black plastic container are multiple items. One of the items is a pistol. It's a Springfield 40 Smith & Wesson caliber Springfield model XDM pistol. There's a magazine, there's a holster, some miscellaneous paperwork, like I think owner's manuals, things like that in there as well.
Now, could I ask you to remove the firearm and double check us to make sure we still have it safe, okay?
Sure.
And Mr. Crafton, you can use, I think, the judge's bench if you need, if it'd be more practical for you. Sorry, Judge.
It's all right, I don't know what that stuff even is.
It is unloaded safe.
And I think we got a tie in the slide to hold it open,
Yes, it's a tie.
so that cannot fire.
Correct.
If you could, can you show the jury, and I'm sure some of them already know this, but can you show the jury how this gun, without that tie, where the magazine goes and how the cartridges get into the gun and how that gun operates?
Sure. May I step down?
Yes, if it's all right with you, Judge.
Yeah, just don't point it at him on TV.
Yes.
And let me ask you this while you're getting ready. I think you pulled a couple cartridges that were there.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when you talk about cartridges, I'll come over here so you don't have to twist around. When you were describing it before, clowns like me say bullets, and actually what the bullet is kind of the round lead part that gets fired out of the gun.
That's correct.
In your nomenclature, the actual terminology, the cartridge is actually the bullet and that shell casing, I think we've seen some pictures of, and all the stuff that's inside it that makes it go bad.
Right. You might have heard like a round or a complete round. That's what a cartridge is. It's comprised of 4 components: the bullet, cartridge case, gunpowder, and the primer.
And in your world, the bullet is just that lead, typically lead that comes out and is fired out of the gun.
That's correct.
Okay.
So, this is what is known as a cartridge. So you got the bullet, which is this part up here. You got the cartridge case, which is the bottom part down here. The primer is So you have the magazine in this case. The cartridges are loaded in the magazine. I won't do that here. But so the cartridges are loaded inside the magazine. Okay, so then the magazine is inserted into the magazine well of the pistol, which is the butt of the pistol, and so it will be inserted inside the magazine like this. At that point, the slide can be pulled rearward, and what happens is when it does that, the slide stop disengages, and a cartridge that is loaded in the magazine is then pushed out of the magazine and chambered inside the barrel of the pistol. And at that point, it is ready to fire with a squeeze of the trigger. The fire pin would come out and strike the primer. The fire pin will come out and strike the primer, which then ignites the gunpowder inside. The gunpowder starts burning, and it pushes the bullet out of the barrel. And after the bullet exits the barrel, the slide is then pushed back from the burning gases inside. It's pushed back, and what happens is that cartridge case is then extracted and then ejected out of the pistol. And then the slide moves forward, stripping another cartridge off and loading the pistol again. And that cycle continues until either you stop pulling the trigger or run out of cartridges.
Thank you, Mr. Crafton. Now, in your crime lab under safe circumstances, did you determine whether that gun was operating as it was designed to operate?
Yes, I did.
And did you obtain test standards like we described for comparison purposes?
Yes, I did.
And as part of your work then, were you provided with what I'll call unknown cartridge casings to examine?
Yes, I did.
And I'm going to show you States Exhibit 51 and 55 and ask if you recognize that these two packages contain 5 different cartridge casings that were presented to you for examination. Whoops.
No.
It's late in the day, Judge. I apologize. The same question, if we could. States Exhibit 47
And 55.
contain the cartridge casings that you were asked to examine.
Correct.
And the one you just handed back to me is 51 and 56 actually contain bullet fragments from the autopsy.
Correct.
And you know that from the manner we described earlier, the tape and how you document these things, correct?
That is correct.
Did you take those unknown 5 cartridge casings and compare them to the test standards that you yourself obtained?
Yes, I did.
And after doing so, did you examine them?
Yes, I did.
And how did you go about examining? What do you actually do if you can?
So the firearm examination process is looking at the firearm itself, determining if it's going to be safe for me to test fire first and foremost. And I note the type of the firearm pistol, the manufacturer, the model, the serial number, the overall condition of the pistol, if it's going to be safe or not. I test fire that into the water tank that I described earlier. It's a big steel tank, about 10 feet long, about 3-4 feet high, filled with water. And we shoot into the water stops the bullets, and so I can get the bullets that I fired from the pistol and then collect the cartridge cases that I fired in the pistol as well. So those become what are known as test standards. And those test standards are then looked at underneath the microscope. So when I look at them underneath the microscope, it is actually a comparison microscope. It's essentially like 2 microscopes that's optically bridged together. So when I look through it, I can see 2 objects side by side at the same time. So I place one test standard on one stage, one test standard on the other stage, and I look for a repeatable pattern of these individual characteristics. Individual characteristics, the marks have like height, width, depth, spatial relationship to each other. And when I look at this, I see the pattern that this firearm leaves on those cartridge cases. So then I take one of the tests off and I put one of the question evidence cartridge cases on there to see if that repeatable random pattern is consistent with what this pistol produced on those test standards.
And after doing that in this case, were you able to, based on reasonable scientific certainty, make a determination whether if one or all or any number of those cartridge casings that are part of this case, those 5, were fired from that firearm that is State's Exhibit 114?
Yes, I did make a finding.
And can you tell the jury what that finding was?
That all 5 of the cartridge cases were fired in this particular pistol.
Now, you also looked at those bullet fragments, did you not, that were provided from the autopsy?
Yes, I did.
And were you able to really make any types of determination with them?
So there were bullets and bullet fragments that were submitted to me for comparisons, and I did make a conclusion on those, but it was what's known as inconclusive, which is it's not an identification. I could not say that it was fired from this pistol, but at the same time, I could not eliminate it from not being fired from this pistol. There was just a lack of individual characteristics for me to conclusively say one way or the other, so it's unknown.
Now, when you fire your gun, test standards in the tank, you get nice, pristine bullets that aren't damaged, correct?
That's correct.
These bullet fragments that came from the autopsy, were they in that same condition?
No, they were not.
Okay, and were they pretty badly damaged?
Some of them were pretty badly damaged.
And that's a factor that always affects your ability to make rulings, if you will, on some types of ammunition components.
Yes, sometimes it does affect that.
But the bottom line is that those cartridge casings, you can exclude any other firearm from having fired those.
Correct. I can say that it was fired in this firearm.
Your Honor, I don't have any other questions, Mr. Crafton.
Briefly, Your Honor. Sir, you work at the crime lab
That's correct.
in Jefferson City,
Correct.
and your involvement in this case was just to test this gun to make sure certain bullets were fired from it, correct?
The bullets in the cartridge cases.
Oh, okay. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay, so you're not here to testify about any other aspect of this case, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor. Wait, can I have 1 second, Your Honor?
Yeah.
You don't know who fired that gun, right?
No, I do not.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, any more redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, did this witness be finally excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Get it back. And then, you got somebody else from
Yes. I think she's very...
Go ahead. I haven't used the box. I had Humphrey identify the gun out of the cage. So with the box is the exhibit? Is that the exhibit stickers on the box? So you want the box as part of the line? Okay, yeah, call your next witness.
Lindsay Kerber? Tim, do you want to look at these?
Okay.
Tim, do you want to look at all these financial records that we provided?
Okay, raise your right hand, ma'am. You solemnly swear the testimony you will now give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, have a seat right up here.
Thank you for your patience today. Could you please state your name?
Lindsay Kerber.
And ma'am, how are you employed?
I am a financial advisor with Renaissance Financial.
And what type of financial advice or work do you do at Renaissance Financial?
Sure, I help individuals and families with their investing and insurance planning.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last.
Investment and insurance planning.
And were you involved with helping Benjamin Renick and Lynlee Renick with some of those items?
Yes, I was.
What items did your firm provide that you were involved with?
I helped manage investments for Ben and Lynlee, and also did some life insurance planning on both of them as well.
Did Ben have a life insurance policy on him?
Yes, he did.
And what was the dollar amount of that life insurance?
$1 million.
And do you remember when he took that life insurance out?
I want to say 2014.
And sitting in front of me, and if you need me to carry them up there, I can.
It's okay.
Or you remember these two file folders from earlier proceedings?
I do.
And they are basically, we served you with a subpoena for those financial records that you just kind of described handling.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer State's Exhibit 80 into evidence at this time.
Okay, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
80 be admitted.
I've marked 3 different documents as 80 that we've previously pulled from those.
Yes.
First of all, that says a policy data page on there.
Yes.
What is a policy data page?
It just provides a quick summary of the life insurance policy.
And does that summarize who the holder or whose life is insured?
It does, yes.
And that is who?
Benjamin Renick.
And does it tell us that date that policy was taken out?
This was August 12th, 2015.
And the amount?
$1 million.
Now, does that page tell us who the beneficiary of that policy was?
Not on this page, no, it does not.
Also, as part of State's Exhibit 80 is the beneficiary. I'm not sure which one of these goes first, if I can find the date. There's a beneficiary change request and a beneficiary change acknowledgement.
Yes.
Can you describe what those are?
So it would be the change request would be the first one, and then the acknowledgement just showed that the change was implemented.
And the only the Lynlee Renick was the beneficiary, the sole beneficiary of this policy. Lynlee. I'm sorry, I used your first name. My apologies. Lynlee was the sole beneficiary.
Correct.
But at some point, a beneficiary change was made, correct?
It was.
Did that pertain to Lynlee or the contingent beneficiaries?
Just the contingent beneficiaries.
And that means if Lynlee is not around to receive this money because she has passed, someone else would get it.
Correct.
And who were the contingent beneficiaries?
Amelia and Matthew.
And that last form then was Ben acknowledging that he had made this change to include both kids, not just one.
The acknowledgement was from the insurance company that said that they acknowledge and have made that change.
So at the time of Ben's death on June 8th of 2017, the state of this insurance policy was that Lynlee Renick, and only Lynlee Renick, was to receive $1 million.
Correct.
This insurance policy wasn't in or part of any trust that Ben may have had.
Correct.
It was separate and distinct.
Yes.
And did you ever have an occasion to meet with Ms. Renick to discuss and let her know of, I guess, her rights or what was coming to her should Ben die?
Yes.
And do you see Ms. Renick in court today?
I do.
Could you indicate where she's at for the jury?
Sure. She's sitting over at that table over there.
And could you tell us what she's
We'll stipulate, Your Honor.
Okay. Never mind, they've agreed.
Identification's been stated.
Now, Ms. Kerber, tell us about, how it is that you know she was aware of this.
I met with her and Ben earlier that same year in my office, and we went through what we call a summary of accounts, which just indicates all the investments and insurance policies under my management, and that was listed.
And this is face-to-face?
Correct.
Not using one of these Zoom things we got to use nowadays?
No, it was
You're sitting
face-to-face.
across the table and you explain to her what you just explained to this jury?
Yeah, to both of them, just how everything was set up, yes.
Your Honor, I don't have any other questions.
Cross.
Ms. Kerber, how involved were you with Frank Renick's trust?
In what way?
Did you write that trust?
No,
Were you the trustee of that trust?
no.
Did you do any work on that? I mean, were you involved in distributing assets from that trust or putting assets in there or anything like that?
I helped facilitate based on what the trustees wanted to do on
Okay.
that, from an
Is it fair
investment.
to say that that trust is a separate entity from what you do at Renaissance Financial?
It's a separate entity, but I helped manage the investments inside that trust.
Okay. Now, you don't know if Lynlee or anybody, well, let me ask it this way. Do you know if Ben was putting assets in the trust while he was alive?
Put in assets?
Well, correct. A trust is an account, if I'm not mistaken, in which it's kind of like active, right? And you can put assets in there. Then once those assets are put into the trust, then they're distributed according to a document called, I don't know what it's called, but maybe just called the trust document. Is that fair to say?
As far as how it's distributed is written inside the trust.
So if I
yes.
want a trust for my kids, an irrevocable trust, I go to a lawyer or somebody, they open up an account, and I can just keep continuously putting money in there. And then once that money goes in there, it's not my money anymore. It belongs to the trust, right?
There's all different types of trusts.
I'm just trying to, for the benefit of the jury here, to explain like how it works. I mean, a trust is money that's held by it's money that's held by a trustee for the benefit of a third party. Is that generally what a trust is?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
And it's the money in that trust can be distributed however the person who starts the trust wants, right? It can go to anybody. It can be distributed, so much when they get a certain age. It can be distributed however that person wants.
How
right?
it's written, yes.
And that you're allowed to put money into that trust as long as the trust documents allow you to do that, correct?
If they do, yes.
Okay. Now, didn't Frank's trust allow Ben to put money into that trust?
I don't know.
Okay, so you don't know?
I don't know.
So you don't know if Ben was putting assets into that trust while he was alive?
I don't recall that he ever contributed new money into the trust.
My question, though, is not whether he did or did not do transfer assets. My question is, if he did that, or I guess my first question is are you aware if he transferred assets into the trust at all?
I cannot recall that he did.
Okay, why can't you recall if Ben transferred assets into the trust?
Because this was a long time ago, and I can't remember. To my recollection, he only took money out. But I can't say with 100% certainty he never added money into the trust.
And Lynlee never... Give me 1 second, Your Honor. Lynlee never received any money. Isn't that correct from this life insurance policy?
From the life insurance?
Yes.
Correct.
Not a cent.
No.
Okay, and even if she's acquitted in this trial, she's still not going to get the life insurance money.
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
I don't know the answer to that question.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, redirect.
Ms. Kerber, are you familiar with what we commonly refer to as the Slayer statute in Missouri?
Yes.
And what is the Slayer statute in Missouri?
That if you are, I believe, found guilty of harming the individual, that you cannot benefit from that person's death financially.
You kill somebody and you're the beneficiary, you don't get the money.
Correct.
And so in this case, Ms. Renick, under the law, is not entitled to that money.
Correct.
And there was litigation involving her children and where that money should go, but she, at the time of Ben's death, was entitled to it as long as she didn't kill him.
Correct.
I don't have any other questions.
Briefly, Your Honor. Didn't Lynlee Renick voluntarily waive any right to the life insurance?
I believe eventually she did.
Okay. By eventually, that's a yes, right?
Yes.
So she voluntarily agreed to not get any of the $1 million from that life insurance policy.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, will this witness be finally excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. You okay with that?
Yes, sir.
You're finally excused. You can step down. Thank you. I guess give that, whatever that is, back to. Okay, call your next witness. I'm so sorry.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would rest.
All right, state rest. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a recess. Remember what I keep telling you, don't talk about the case until it's finally given to you to decide. You can go with the bailiff. Counsel, stay in the courtroom.
All right, please.
Is more applicable towards her going to this reptile center for murder as it is her going there to divorce. So all we have are witness statements that have been procured through, there's no other way to say it, threats and promises to these witnesses. To not give statements, to not only give statements, but to change prior statements that Lynlee was first innocent. That they originally said she was innocent. And so we move for judgment of acquittal at this time.
Okay, you wish to respond?
Those are all questions for the jury.
Okay. Defendant's motion for judgment of acquittal at close of state's evidence, argued, filed, argued, and by court, denied. Okay. Okay, now how are we looking on, you don't have to tell me who you're calling, but what are we thinking on time here?
I think we can go until the jury's ready to be dismissed for dinner, Your Honor.
Well, what time, yeah.
I don't think we're going to get through all of our witnesses today, Your Honor.
Okay, did you want to do what did I say, WebEx Zoom thing?
No.
Did you want to do that? Because if we do, I got to get that. Are we going to do that today? Or do we know?
We haven't even been able to get a hold of that witness.
Well, they told me they don't have a problem with it. Can you try to get a hold of her?
Yes.
Now? Because if we want to do that, I don't know how to set it all up. I got to get my guy up here to do that.
Well, I would suggest for that reason, we do that witness tomorrow morning, Your Honor. I expect our case to run into tomorrow morning anyways.
Okay, and maybe she can show up tomorrow, do you know that?
We don't know that, Your Honor. Like I said, we haven't been able to get a hold of her.
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, it's just that I gotta get somebody up here to help me figure out how to rig it all up, regardless if that's what she's gonna do. If she's gonna be here in person, it's a moot point. So, but anyway, you think your case is gonna go into tomorrow?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, you think you'll wrap up tomorrow
I expect so.
morning?
It's tough to say. I wouldn't count on it.
Early afternoon?
Sure.
You think that's right?
I'll defer to Katie.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll give you guys some time to go to the bathroom and relax a little bit. If you can make that connection, that'd be great.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay? And you want to go back? You go back?